Everybody, if it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer. A little bit earlier in the day, but still here we are. And ready to join you again and waste another hour or maybe more of your life. But hopefully we get some figs painted and have a good time. Joining me this week, as always, is Cthulhu, the monster from the deep. Tom, how you doing?
Hey, everybody.
Also joining us, the man, the myth, the legend himself, the Welsh monster, the unstoppable, the original Beastman, Reef. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm very well. Nice to meet you, Vince and Tom.
That was far too subdued for you, sir.
No, it's a proud moment indeed for you both.
Well, we are most pleased to have you on the show, and we know everybody out there, so it's a little bit earlier time. Hopefully, we've got some more people in the Europe, UK area, that whole portion of the world where it's normally 3, 4, 5 in the morning when we're broadcasting. We're being a little more friendly. This is a cross-Atlantic partnership we're doing here by broadcasting at this time of the day. I'd like to think we're rebuilding bonds that were broken back in the 1700s. This is the first step.
It's water under the bridge. Hey, listen, if you want to rule the world, do it. We're done with it. That's old school.
Sure, you had your turn.
With India, all those places, Canada, we don't want them. It's done. Have them.
When you guys figured the whole Navy thing wasn't working out, you just kind of washed your hands of it?
I don't know. It's just old news for us. We had an interest in ruling the world. We didn't have any longevity. So.
Sure.
I mean, I just hope that I prepped up on my American speak, and hopefully I'm fully fluent now, and this hour will go okay, and we'll be able to converse. You know, I've prepped up on my American lingo.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. There shouldn't be any references to water closets or anything like that. We'll be fine, I'm sure.
I'm going to throw in occasional words like route to see that my appearance is seamless.
Sure. Well, I think that what's important is that the language of Warhammer is certainly universal, right? I mean, there you go. That's what's important. That's what brings us all together. So first, let's turn to some news. So Tom, I know you don't have a lot of the news prepared, but I normally throw over to you. I do have some pictures and such ready to go. Would you like to talk about some of the things that are coming up here?
Sure.
Obviously, we've got we have some new prosecutors, right? That's the story. The new flying Stormcast. Maybe we should talk about these.
So more guys in big armor, big gold armor. What was that?
I said maybe we should talk about the delay first. Let me go ahead and do this. We will screen share it up here, and we'll go to this right here. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Sorry, were you speaking to me, Vince?
So first taker wins it.
I can see that.
We have our new prosecutors box, the multi-build plastic box, coming in at $60 for 3 of them. How do you feel about that, Reef?
Well,
how do you feel about that?
Well, I'll try and answer as seriously as I can, but I don't know. I like the notion that the Stormcast, you could have less models, and you could improve your painting and go back to old school. 20 models, and I've certainly done that with my 20. As we try and increase each unit size, I don't know. Particularly prosecutors, they don't. I'm taking myself a bit seriously here, but they don't seem to last as long in the game. And so, as pretty as they are, I don't know if I'd want to give my hard-earned cash for them. And I think it's important that over the next 12 months, my Stormcast don't become an enormous Skaven or Beastmen army. Is that negative? I don't know.
No, I'm with you. I hear that. I think that it's one of those things where we all felt like, yeah, we have a lot of these. So I guess it's nice because you can get basically an army out of the Age of Sigmar box. And I think these are basically luxury, right? Like, you don't really need these, because even if you just wanted more prosecutors, you could probably pick up more on the cheap from bid sites or eBay or something from the starter box. They just don't have all the weapon options.
Yes.
Tom, what about you? How do you feel, Tom, that I was right and you were wrong when we predicted how many you would get for the price last week? That by standard Price is Right rules, I won.
Well, it's true. This is a true statement. I had a little bit too much faith in GW, and hoping that they would deliver something that was affordable yet interesting, and they failed me. I didn't have the 3 for $100 guess that somebody else was throwing around, but it's whatever. It's more guys in big armor with big weapons running around.
Well, luckily, I had no faith in GW whatsoever, and I come pre-armed and pre-warned. There's a very definite distinction between their sales and marketing team and promotional outfit, and the quality of their figures and the enjoyment I get from playing Age of Sigmar. But hopefully, I'm going to be able to rein in that spend. And whereas I couldn't at the start, I was so taken by the actual game itself and the fun and the ease with which I could get on the table. I sort of just anything they would produce, I'd buy, and the books and the figures. I think hopefully I'll get a little bit of a handle on it as time goes by.
I agree. So let's touch on that real quick. I think that's a worthwhile thing to touch on. Has the Stormcast set of releases gone on for too long? That is to say, like between Khorne and the Stormcast, basically what's in the Age of Sigmar box. Have they spread this out too far? Just from a purpose of like kind of burnout. You're like, even if you like the armies, I'm collecting it. But after a while, I was like, well, I got enough of that. You know. Well, what do you think, Reef? Start us off. Do you think that they've spread this out too far? Did they not strike while the iron's hot?
Well, initially the thought was that, hey, we've got 15 army books. The War Scrolls effectively 15 army books at the same time. Excitement for everybody. Of course, if you had a lovely plush book beforehand, you are now getting some kind of unusual PDF scroll, which didn't seem quite like a replacement. But for the Beastmen, where I don't regard us ever having a book, it was, you know, a bonus and an upgrade for ourselves. But sorry, what was the question? I'm using the hour as a way of shoehorning as many jokes in as I can. Otherwise, I'm certainly not here for the content. There was a question at the start. What was it?
Did they spread out the Stormcast releases too long? Like the fact that we're still getting these, and there could be a couple more. Have we just are we all ready to move on? Is there Stormcast burnout?
Well, because the point that I was going to make was there was 15 army books that effectively came out, but it's just 2 armies that have come out, and we'll see a cessation of other armies come out with different shaped bases. I mean, the Skaven release was, you know, once we go through all of the armies with round bases, maybe a figure per army, I look forward to then another circulation with triangular bases going through the various armies. But I think that other people feel hard change. I fully understand why they might not take Age of Sigmar to their hearts. The books themselves, as you say, are thoroughly Stormcast and you know, gore-tied, and yeah, it's a bit exhausting. I suspect we're going to go through the various realms with the different books, and that in itself might be an interesting and woefully expensive collection to have if we're not going to have army books. As you go through, you know, the first 2 realms, next 2 realms, but in the way of figures, no, thus far they haven't shown that they're having a complete approach to satisfying everyone. When we move across to what may become 5 or so, or 4 orders, 5 or 6 factions, whatever, then ultimately I think they'll look to get, you know, everybody with new figures. But at the moment, it's a bit of a band-aid approach, isn't it? For if you don't have the Stormcast, or why is Tom laughing? Tom, take your hat off. Are you indoors?
I am indoors, and you don't want to see what my hair looks like right now. But
goodness. Well, I think me and Vince both have our challenges in that department, but we haven't come as rude as to wear headwear on inside the building on a live output show.
Let's pretend like I'm on a patio.
Listen, make no mistake. This is Vince's last chance saloon. His subscribers are dying in their droves. Now, get it together.
No, what I would say is this.
People watching, I expect them to be relative partners.
Maybe I was the only one seeing Doom flash by flashing the double guns at our.
No, he's coming. He's for the end of the releases section. I'm sorry, I had him as the surprise. I didn't mean to reveal him yet, but yes, Tom, I have a surprise for you because I know your opinion.
Wonderful. Excellent. Okay, so what I was going to say regarding Reef's comment about the woefully expensive bookshelf that we are going to all be accumulating if we're actually buying the books. It appears that they're changing things up because in the release this next week, it looks like the actual a Stormcast Eternals Army book is going up on pre-order.
Yep, the Battle Tome Stormcast Eternals, 58 US, something like 35 pounds, I think, something like that.
Yeah, so it looks like they were going one direction with the campaign books, and then they swung hard the other direction now with this Army book, and one would expect that we would have a book that would have all of the realms in it rather than having to buy each of the campaign books slowly. So it's just a real interesting, they seem to be trying to do a both-and type of situation, and I just don't know that, I don't know. It just feels weird, is what I would say.
Tom, when you say interesting, do you mean awful? Because
yes, I do.
When I saw that book come out, I was marginally perturbed that the £90 I spent on the 2 books, plus the odd, dare I say it, White Dwarf, and time spent scouring the internet and war scrolls, is now going to culminate in one publication that, of course, I could have purchased a little while ago with it to see fit to put me right. And I'm slightly nervous that the very thing that would be lovely, all the rules, stats, info on that one particular army in one book, would have been even more lovely if I'd have had it a couple of months ago.
Yes. Yeah, it's really it's really fascinating or interesting or awful that they've decided to now release it at the end of the release schedule rather than at the beginning. It's a really curious decision.
Other than what they've done there, it's kind of like watching a movie then receiving your tickets at the end of it.
It's like saying, I don't know. It's like saying this: hey, how about you buy these campaign books because that's where the stats are going to be at for your units, and buy all, however many books that we've released. Oh, by the way, if you want them all in one book, here's the final one book with all their background information.
It's a culmination. I don't mind them saying this is a scenario book. If you're into the fluff, buy that, and this is a rule book. And if you're into this army, particularly, buy that. I'm concerned when I buy a car over the course of 12 months and receive it in monthly packages. I like it all to be as one. I like to be able to drive it on day 2. I don't want to, this week I'm getting the clutch. Fingers crossed next week the steering wheel. I like to be able to have what I need and go from there. Vince, I sense you're talking too much, but anything else to add to that?
You're fine. So you're saying you're not a fan of the Johnny Cash one piece at a time sort of thing where he builds a Cadillac over 30 years of working at GM?
No, I don't. No. I mean, you could go to the other end of the spectrum, I suppose, and there are some rule books where you buy that rule book and you very definitely know that's someone's life's work, that rule book. I'm thinking of books possibly like War and Conquest, a bit more historical. When you've bought that book, you've got the thrill of knowing you're never going to be pushed on to another spend. You're never going to be driven on to the next scenario book or the next addendum book or expansion pack. Then 3 months later, you've got the depression of knowing you're never going to have the next scenario book. You're never going to have the next expansion pack. You're never going to have the figures. And you're looking for a balance, aren't you? You're hoping that your hobby is maintained with interesting purchases without... I'm sorry, I'm boring myself.
No, you're fine. So, I mean, here's what I'd say. I think that what's interesting about the book strategy to me, releasing effectively the Army book, if we're going to call it that, because it is that, at the end, is that do you really need this thing? Is there anything about this book that you need if you play Stormcast?
Would you like to take that one, Tom?
No. And that's an answer to the question, not an answer to you.
Tom, are you eating as well? Are you eating?
Yes, I am. Yes.
He's literally being as unprofessional as possible, but it's fine.
I try. I really do.
It's fine.
And now you're going to tell me that's alcohol.
Vodka, to be exact.
What kind of show are you running here, Vince? What age are you? Over 21.
Look, the Warhammer show is debauchery. That's what we're bringing. So here's what I would say. I submit to you that this book is completely unnecessary. It is for people who are completionists. If you want to play the Stormcast, you have everything you need in the free app and all the free scrolls that you have. You can field that army in 1,000 million configurations. You have all the stats for every unit. They will all be free in the app. Good to go. You even have access to some number of the formations. Now, undoubtedly, without the book, there are a couple formations you don't have access to. One, who cares? Two, you could get them easy enough if you were inclined to get your hands on them because, whatever, it's a single formation. They're more or less going to instantaneously be public knowledge. So, to me, I think what this book is for the collector who's like, you really, really love Stormcast, and you want to know the history and the orders, and you want the fluff. And that seemed to be most of these books so far. Is there for people who are really into sort of the collection, the fluff, the larger thing. If you're buying a $60 book for 8 scenarios or something, you need to rethink how you spend your money, right? You better be getting more out of it than that, because there's going to be 1,100 scenarios in a month for this game. So no one book is a necessary purchase. And I actually prefer that. You know, in the old world where you had to have your army book, I mean, you had to. There was just either you stole it or you went out and bought it. And of course, I'm sure all of our viewers would be above reproach and never steal such things. So
I'm adopting this pose to seem more intelligent, not because I'm remotely interested in what you're saying, Vince, but if I could just add a wrinkle to that with regards to a close friend who was thrilled at the prospect of these formation battalions now being made available for 79p. He said that it was thrilling that we no longer needed to buy the books, and they were going to release them for a mere 79p. You could download that 3 lines or so that sort of said, take 2 liberators, 1 prosecutors, I don't know, and a monkey's uncle, and you can suddenly have +1 to hit. And we really differed on our opinion on that. I thought it was woeful that essentially 3 lines, 3 unit types, create a gaming buff and bonus. And we're supposed to cream ourselves about it. What's your thoughts there? That's relatively linked to what you were saying, I think, of what I was listening to.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say I love the formation bonuses. I don't mind them at all. Your question of whether or not I like them. Reef, I know you've been playing a while. Do you remember back in 6th edition when the army books used to have like variant armies in the back that would, so for example, in the Empire book you had like the artillery train of Nuln and like the fanatics of Sigmar and such that moved around the rarity of the units and gave certain special abilities and whatnot. I always loved them.
It's the notion of paying for this, reading a paragraph. I like the way they've done it in that have a little bit of order, pop those units together, and you can have this ability. Pop those units together, you can have this ability. And
right.
So there is an element of obviously buying more off the shelves to have that little package, but you're relatively confined in what you can take, and you just don't take the very best of everything. So it's a nice way of controlling that. I just felt that 79, but you want to see the kind of stuff I can download from the internet for free. I tell you this much. Listen, I could charge 79p, and a lot more people would be taking it.
That's fair. I mean, sure, the individual cost of them, I think the formation's probably the wrinkle, and I think that they're going to need to work on their distribution method for that. For example, to me, the big real sore spot right now is if I buy the physical book, I don't unlock those formations in the app, right? If I had one complaint, it would be that. Right. Because that's silly. If I went out and spent the money, then and I have those formations sitting in my hand in a physical book, I should be able to access them in the app. So if I was going to level 1 complaint, that would certainly be the one. They need to clean that up. That's just nonsensical.
Well, I'm not sure we've got enough time to cover all the elements of complaints we might have. But yeah, it does. I mean, we won't go into summoning because we don't want this to become a sort of legal bout between commenters. But you know, some people feel that have to field certain troops to get something. Some people feel that merely having them in reserve. Some people feel having them in a bag, and some people feel merely having them in the attic or having
them existing somewhere in the world. Yeah. Oh yeah, we've had the summoning discussion many a time, and you're right. Perhaps best to move on. So the Battle Tome's coming. If you're a big fan of Stormcast, hey, you've got a book. And I personally, let me tell you what I think the upside is. I want to see tons of these books. What's that? Yes, I want to see lots of them. And I want to see these books for all sorts of different things. And I actually like them coming at the end for this other reason. Now I don't know every unit that's being released. New units came out and they still surprised me. if they're not going to give us a release schedule, then that's fine. I want to be surprised. If I don't get anything, if all I get is teasers and I don't even get a good trailer of the movie, then the movie better have some twists and turns. So at least now, I don't know exactly what's coming. So that's fine. I'm okay with it.
Well, the good news is they have another $40 character coming.
That's right. Yes, the Knight Azeros, who's a multi-part build with this guy. With what's the other one's name? I don't know. There's a different one. He has two builds. One with a lantern and one with like a sword or something.
How fortunate you are that you have no interest in knowing what's coming, because you certainly won't. And I tell you something else, fellas. You'll have no warning of what's going either, and that's what affects a lot of our viewers as well. That's the more scary prospect.
Yeah, I look at it like GW is providing me with a constant source of suspense and surprise. That's what it is. That's a very valuable thing. It's every week it's a new thing.
I mean, if I had limitless cash like yourself, I am keen to collect the books. The one thing that people felt was untoward about them all, they were very high on graphics and images, very low on content. But fortunately, with my small mind capacity, that worked well for me. And I found that it's a nice little 45 quid for me to buy every couple of months. And I kind of need the pictures anyway. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind them coming out with regards to the fluff and a little bit of rules and graphs and what have you in them. That said, would I exchange it all for a sweet rule book? Yes. Just, what a massive parody. Just ignore everything I said.
Fair enough.
Delete this. This is live.
The other big item is these upgrade packs. So it's you got the clam packs. They've got special shields in them, and different shoulder pads. Basically, it's a bits upgrade pack. 12 US. I don't know what they are pounds, but what do you feel about that? How do you like bits in these packs? Good thing, bad thing?
Well, we called this out. I mean, Vince, I don't know if you remember that or not, but we called this out back in like May, like late May or June, when they started doing it with the 40K stuff.
Yep. We did. As usual, you heard it here first. I'm going to just claim that, even though I can't back it up.
Well, listen, fellas, this is what was sent to me by Vince more than a year ago. Have a look at that base size. Have a look at the shape. Look at the color scheme that you chose. Don't tell us that you're not on the inside, my friend. You're working for the enemy.
That's right. I knew. I saw the gold coming.
That's 32 mil. That's disgusting.
Man, that's a Stormcast Eternal right there. You just snuck it in.
Yes, it is. You put that next to the Lord Relector. I can tell you now. You're like, Jesus, Vince. I told all of my friends that he was an absolute charlatan, and then considered fact and information after the fact. Sorry, was there another question, Vince?
No, that's
all
fantastic. Right. The other bit of news that leaked out today, I don't know if even you know this, Vince, but on the UK Games Workshop website, at least, the Garden of Moor is back.
I did see that, yes. And I thought that was interesting and exciting. It's good to see that come back. By the way, we do have some pictures of these prosecutors. Here we go. So here's the prosecutor with the double-handed axe. There's the old one with the hammers. The guy with the bow.
Oh, I see. You see, they've given them extra tools. They've popped into home base, and essentially, when you say there's more prosecutors, they will be given different weapons with which they can use and alter the game in some way.
Yes, they'll actually have different, like, the War Scroll will get updated with different versions of them, just like when we got the, so we had the Retributors, which were the guys with big hammers, but then we got the Decimators or whatever that are the guys with big axes, right? So they just got
I can't speak for the common man, but me personally, I'm glad I was given only the one option to have the hammers rather than having multiple options where I could choose something I'd like to field. So thank you, GW.
So, Tom, did you notice what comes with the $40 character, by the way, here? That's what this guy is. Here's your two options.
Yeah, $20 mini Phoenix.
That's right, a tiny Phoenix. Look at him. He's adorable. You're telling me that's not worth the price of entry alone, Tom. You wouldn't buy him just for the
No, that mini Phoenix is not worth $20. In fact, I paid $20 for my full-size Phoenixes.
I can't speak for the size of Tom's phoenix, but I am a bird lover. I like that.
Yeah, there you go. You can mini bird. So even if you build the lantern guy, bonus tiny bird for you, Reef. There you go.
I spent a lot of time putting rude and abusive tabs underneath myself, and I would be very shocked if they haven't been coming up. But they come up.
Vince has commandeered the screen so that
I have commandeered the screen momentarily. The other thing that I thought was interesting was, here you go. This is also some of the stuff. The round shields. I want to be able to buy. I don't know that one of these clan. I hope one of the clan packs comes with this type of shield. This round shield instead of the sort of larger kite type shield or whatever.
Did you guys notice that the one of the 3 prosecutors from the starter set, it's been proven by physicists that it cannot stand over a period of more than 5 seconds, no matter what way you model it. Am I the only person having difficulties with it?
I see, Reef, that you have not been looking at the prosecutors that I have put up recently. Because
I have to be honest, I haven't been looking at a lot that you put up recently, if I'm honest.
That's okay. None of them. I got rid of all the toilet paper off of that's hanging off their butts. None of mine are on scrolls. They're all standing on a million other things, terrain and broken columns, and one is standing on a Bretonian standard. So yes.
Right, but as you say, the shields are nice. I think that's desirable. I think it would make flight more difficult with the weight of the shield, but maybe that's something in the wings not being made of feathers that they can countermand that.
Yeah, I'm just going to assume it's magic shields. There you go.
I like it.
It's not an issue for jetpacks.
You're right, exactly. They're not hurt.
If you went back, I'm not sure if this was was it Jet Set Willy? What was the game from the 80s where he had a jetpack and he was endlessly zooming across the screen? If you were told that that sort of thing was going to appear in Warhammer, you'd be like, come on, don't be silly. Don't be silly now. You have a list of things that you'd accuse someone of becoming mad, insane, if they suggested it would take place, whether it be the round bases or the book being a notional book. It doesn't actually exist. But we're there. We're in that world.
Yes, we are. It is a bold new world.
Sorry, I've written here, make sure you're positive and polite. I think I've written it already. I need to write it larger.
Check both of those off. You're good.
I'm refocused. I'm on it. Okay. What other units have you got for us, Vince?
Well, I've got some other stuff. So first, I wanted to show you there's a, this isn't really news, but I thought it was art worth showing. So I'll just show this now since I'm in here. And this was, Tyler Emerson shared this. And he can post. I think this was done. These were done for him. I don't remember the original artist, but this is all sort of a non-metallic metal blue for these Retributors, and I just thought it was amazing work. He shared it with me, and I wanted to share it with everybody else because I thought it was just an amazing job. And I'll try to link the artist name down below after the video's up as well. Just fantastic non-metallic metal work there. I also found this conversion. For those of you who can't wait for the dwarves, there you go. How about a dwarf on a bear? How's that grab you?
It's pretty good.
All right, super. And then finally, Tom, yes, I have this picture. This is Dr. Doom, and this is how I think you feel about the Stormcast right now. Does that about sum up your feelings?
I almost mistook him for a Stormcast.
He does. He's very Stormcast.
I just want to see other stuff. Like, come on, G-dubs.
Sure. There's our lantern guy again up on the cover. You're coming white dwarf with the lantern hero. All right. Very good. Stop that screen share. Hello. Oh, we lost Reef. He'll be back. Okay. So Tom, what do you think about all of that in general? That was a long time on the news. Anything else you wanted to mention? I have one more thing if you don't have anything else.
Not that I can think of.
Okay, so I will mention my other thing. The last thing I would say is that I got a link from Tyler Emerson, the same guy who shared that picture with me. He's actually compiled a rather nice Google Doc full of a whole bunch of Age of Sigmar resources, links to battle report sites and editorials and compacts, and just like it's a really, really nice resource, and he's been regularly updating it. So it's massive, everything he's put together. Just links out to everything you could ever want for Age of Sigmar. I'm going to include that link down below, so you can go there and use that and give him feedback as to, you know, what else you would want to see include, or provide him with links that are maybe missing. And I think that's a great thing to have that sort of community shared effort of all those different things that could be in there. Because I mean, Tom, what's your feeling on this? My feeling is there's just so much going on; it's almost impossible to keep track of everything.
There is a lot. I mean, between the fact that we are getting new Age of Sigmar releases every week, to the fact that it seems like there's a new comp pack out every week as people are trying different things. There's a lot out there. And
the problem with it is, like, we want the cream of the crop to rise to the top, right? We want the best stuff to be the stuff that gets played and gets used. But if we don't know what that is, because we don't know where to find it, it's hard to actually do that. So check out the link down below for Tyler's stuff. I think that I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. So, very good. While we are waiting on Reef to come back, perhaps we should turn to some hobby time, since we have exhausted the news. So, Tom, what have you been working on?
Lots of more time stuff. Absolutely no, like, I haven't done any painting. I haven't done any of, like, my normal hobbying that I would normally be doing. So I've been I finished up the army lists and all the stuff for, yeah. So we're coming close on more time, is what I would say.
I agree. Reef, welcome back, sir.
I'm sorry, I became increasingly disinterested in what you were both saying. So I went down to make a little bit of a bite, but I'm back. I'm back. Is it any better?
It's much better now. Yes, we've moved on, so you should be good now. Well, hopefully we can keep your attention.
Yes, I do intend to concentrate a great deal more now in the second half of the show. But I was asked by friends if you could, you know, your name bar across the bottom.
Yes.
If you could just raise it a touch.
I don't know if there's a way to do that.
No more than 5 or 6 inches.
Just to cover my face, make sure that it's just the whole screen.
Listen. I'm the messenger. Don't sue. I'm just delivering the message. That's
fair. That's completely fair.
I don't watch a lot of this internet business, but they felt that you're very low down on the screen.
Well, usually when I'm sitting in my chair, yes, I'm like this. I'm generally blocked by it.
I don't know what particular advantage that affords you, and I probably don't want to know, but I think generally it's considered to see a man's torso and head is a little bit more. That's the default.
It's just called having a bad chair.
Okay, listen, straighten this thing up. Let's concentrate on the warhammer.
There you go. All right, so we had moved on to some hobby time. So the question is, what's on your table? Reef, what have you been working on? Obviously, I've seen some great videos with your Stormcast. How's that coming?
Now listen, I can tell you what I'm painting, and honestly today, my missus has had a series of problems with this bag, and the leather's been cracking. I don't think it's leather. I think it's pleather. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And but with Devlin mud and a little bit of that Ryan oxide, is it? I don't know, the brown. I've been doing a lot of that for her. She's asked me to do that, and then you glue the seal. That's that. And then also she wanted me to do the shoe, which is just, I don't know if you can see, it's a little bit coming away there. So I've done a lot of adhesive. With regards to figures, I completed 2 weeks ago my whole Stormcast force, plus like extra purchases. I found it quite simple to complete, and I enjoyed it. Put a lot of effort into it, and it's done. And the only reason I haven't shown it publicly is I wanted to come out in the course of the future episodes within the little series I'm doing. But it's done, and never could have achieved that with 8th edition size forces, you know?
Yeah, I agree. It's been one thing I will agree with you on. I've been working through my Stormcast as well, and it really is a pleasure. Like, they're fun to paint.
Just a second. Did you say the one thing you could... I've been speaking for 40 minutes. The one thing you can agree on? How dare you?
You finally hit something I can agree with, so thank you. It's taken a while.
Routine painting. Yes, there's something I can agree with Reef on. That's textbook. I also paint like this way up. That's good.
Basically, I am saying everything else you have said in this entire show has been utter nonsense, should be disregarded by all of our viewers. Yes, that is accurate. You seized on to the subtext, my friend.
That's a given. No, come on, focus in now.
So yeah, I as well have found them a pleasure to paint. They really are. They're good. I noticed you didn't really do, in what I've seen from your 2 videos, which of course, as always with our guests, I'll have a link down to Reef's channel. But if you haven't subscribed to Reef, don't. He doesn't want you. As Reef will say, he doesn't need any additional subscribers. It's fine.
Now listen. On a serious note, there has been a quite horrific virus that's been affecting people lately with regards to subscriptions on YouTube. It doesn't seem to be affecting the people who are existingly with me, but when people now subscribe to me, they are contracting the virus. I think it's via Google, but it's certainly a very potent time to be doing that, and I would advise against it, honestly. Just give it a year or 2, and then retry, and hopefully all's well.
Sure. Yes, but Reef does have a great series about his Beastmen going on, shall we say, a unique adventure through the portal of the Age of Sigmar.
I tell you what, on a serious level, it has proved an interesting vehicle to both parody and rip the piss out of GW, but also champion the figures and the game that I'm enjoying so much. And that seems to be a vehicle, I don't know if I said vehicle twice, I hope not, because that will sort of underplay the strength of this point. But it has been useful, because as you know, I don't like really giving advice, but it's a way of which I can keep up the constant comment on releases, figures, rule changes, and scenario books that are coming out, and new realms, but without really saying anything of any cohesive thought.
No, it's great, and you have a wonderful, not to blow too much smoke up your ass, but you have a good mix of managing to show what you like and point out what's really good while still taking the piss out of people where necessary. So, you know, it's a good balance. All of these things make Reef's channel sound very positive, and I'm sure that we're just inviting people to subscribe to you. And I know that's never what you're all about.
That virus is a very real thing, but joking aside, be careful of that. There's a number of viruses I would caution you against, but I'm not sure what time this is going out. But I think if we stick to the one that's affecting the YouTube channel, it'll get into your homes, man. This is pretty awful. You'll come home one day, your pets will be all crippled up like the thing. I'd say stay away for the moment.
That seems fair. Yeah, no, we understand. It's a dangerous time, and you know we don't want to. Just why risk it, right? I mean, I think that's...
Listen, I tell you what, if you're looking for some kind of reasonable response, I've got good friends within the industry. I think you can all agree it's now become an industry, this wargaming YouTubing. And if you put up something like Age of Sigmar 101 or, Nagash, then you're going to be beset with hundreds of new subscribers, none of which really know the vibe with which you give off on the show, who you are, your general thoughts, the way in which you conduct yourself, and so on the one hand, your subscribers go up, but more than 60% of them are lunatics. I was lowballing with that, but and I think they've come a cropper, and you don't really want any traveling refugees, and I think it's nice to have. Well, mine are friends. I've been doing the channel for 7 years, less thoughtfully and more thoughtfully. And, I do consider, I know hundreds of their names well and who they are, what armies they run. And there's no real reason to have more than that unless I was looking to earn some money. And fortunately, I have fabulous wealth.
Sure, your independent wealth has secured you well for many bird watching adventures and the other pastimes of Reef. Yes, look at it all. Exactly. The bounty.
This Games Workshop collection here is the equivalent of having gold bullion behind you. I think that printer ink Games Workshop figures and plutonium, they're probably the 3 resources that were aliens to come down to our planet and just go, listen, we're going to take their resources and get out of town. That's what they'll take with them.
So, I mean, I think that the nice part will be if you happen to have a backstock of Mantic figures, they'll leave those for you because, you know, much less valuable.
Rumor has it that, yeah, they'll actually add to your collection. They come up from other areas. And they're like, listen, you know these sort of VC cav, we're just going to leave you a couple of units. No more than a couple, but if you could deal with those, that would be fine.
No, it's fine. I own Mantic stuff too. That's not a knock against Mantic things. Some of their models have had some challenges in the past. They're fine. It's all fine.
Only in the way you adhere them. Other than that, they're fantastic.
Yeah. I actually do much like some of their units. But at any rate, let's move on to our... Oh, what am I working on? Let me just say that real quick. I am converting my own Celestin Prime. So there you go. I am building him from scratch. And, well, I'm not from scratch. I'm not, like, casting him or something. I mean, I'm not starting with, like, flour and water here. But I'm converting him from a bunch of things that aren't Celestin Prime and going to make it. So he'll be coming along as soon as I get back from the road. All right. So now... let's move on. And yes, I did decide on what wings I want in them, and they're flipping huge, and that's what's important. Okay. So let's talk about our feature segment. Now, Reef, you are, I think it is well established that you are the foremost Beastman enthusiast on the web. You are the source of all Beastman knowledge. I know that when they were knocking around the idea of doing an 8th edition Beastman book, they did seek you out to consult with you to get the deep lore and history of the Beastmen. So, and now we we have a new Beastmen book of sorts.
Let's
talk about.
When someone starts a sentence with, Reef, you've long been known as the foremost, I immediately feel compelled to reject your argument before I know what the topic is. Because I just think, I didn't do it, or at least I didn't do it twice, and she was over 70. But I've enjoyed the army for a long time. It doesn't really interest me how much I have, but the guise I took with regards to Beastmen is quite an unusual section of the hobby in which I read about something, purchase it, model it, paint it, and play it. And a lot of people in the hobby spend as much as 80% of the time foruming it, commenting, YouTubes, maybe buying, and because I enjoyed collecting all the different figures, apart from Pumbagore, which obviously I proxy for matters of taste, I found that I could change my army so much, so often, that it didn't really get boring till the last year of 8th. And I've just generally enjoyed them because I was long known as Mr. Double Jabber, which is not as rude as it sounds, but I do think that if you're constantly chasing a winning build, you tend to be able to find it within 5 minutes of going on the forum, and then you purchase it, paint it, and that's it. And there's no real reason to go away from that. But I've found that by playing something different every time, on the one hand it means I'm not very competent with each build, but on the other hand it's enjoyable for my opponent, and they seem to like to play me with the army, and it's been enjoyable. Yeah, despite the woeful pamphlet that they kept posing as an army book, I have enjoyed it. I like the figures, I like the way they look. I always liked the new Minotaurs. I'm not one of those sheep who has to jump in with the crowd, and I don't use that term lightly as a Beastman fan, but the old Minotaurs, they just look like German shepherds sitting up and begging. And the new ones I like a lot.
They really are massive. I hadn't actually seen them in person because, like, Beastmen is probably the army I've played the least. And but a friend of mine was getting into them, and he now uses them sort of in Age of Sigmar when he's playing his larger Chaos Force. He has some Beastmen in there, some of the newer Minotaurs, and I was super impressed by those figs, seeing them up close. I mean, they're big. They're really, like, those dudes are cut. They did not skip a single arm day at the gym. They really have been hitting it.
And also, I think in 8, there's nothing more thrilling than seeing the eyes of someone and realizing they've drawn a Beastman opponent with like relatively no save, almost no shooting. It's poor leadership. Like, hey, I'm halfway there. As long as I deploy facing that way, I should be all right. But you know, I got to be pretty good with it. I did very. I almost said I did very well. That would have been a lie. I did fairly well with them, but I do like them a great deal. I've got an absolute morass of them. But in Age of Sigmar, I mean, we can go on to that. I'm concerned that I'm not getting much of an opportunity to speak, so I'm trying to cram. But with Sigmar, I think you know, they're even better still.
Go ahead, Tom.
It's always Tom.
So, you know, I've been kind of lost these last. What are these Beastmen that you guys are talking about? Like, I think like giants? Is that what you're talking about?
I think you've showed your age there, Tom. Like, I'm honest.
Harpies? Harpies? Are harpies in their army?
You're not wrong, Tom. I completely agree with what you're saying. It's really a shame because I think they are cool. They had a very unique aesthetic, and they were a very cool army with a lot of cool ideas. It just, they were so under-supported, and I think a lot of people got caught up in the fact that they were an underperformer in the table in 8th. But, Tom, do you remember back when we were way back, pre-launch of Age of Sigmar, we had a show where we were talking about the idea that there was going to be these war scrolls. We were talking about the new...
Winners and losers.
What's that?
Winners and losers, that conversation?
Winners and losers, that's right. And who did I say might be the biggest winner?
You said that you thought Beastmen were going to be the biggest winner.
Boom! And I was right. If you just account for the distance covered, I don't mean they came out the absolute best. I just mean where they were to where they are. Absolutely.
I would disagree. I still think, as my call was right, the Chaos Dwarves, because they were recognized by GW and put in their app. They're a real army now.
You spent half of last episode complaining about the quality of the Chaos Dwarf War Scrolls. You cannot pick them as a winner. You are simply lying.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good they are. What matters is they're acknowledged as real. That's very different. Like, Beastmen actually had a published book that was playable in tournaments. They were on shelves at GW stores. The same can be said of Chaos Dwarves.
How do you like your new rule book compared to the old army book?
I don't want to talk about that.
No? No? I don't know which way to go. Do I go with 8th edition, the big biblical tome, or do I go with the leaflets that they give out for free on the internet now? At least you didn't pay much money for it. I didn't realize there was a Chaos Dwarf army. And I don't count Harpies as Beastmen, because they're included in the Dark Elves, so I shun them. I take them, but I make them face the wall.
That seems fair. So let's get into it. We're going to talk about just kind of Beastmen in general. And Reef, I want you to kick us off here. I don't care how much you've been talking. We're here to we're glad to have you. We want you to just go ahead and go on as long as you want.
Well, I was concerned I wasn't talking enough. I'm usually shared the camera with no more than one person, and I limit them to a series of vowels. But yeah, now let's go. You ready?
Like an early '90s rock. Yes, only A-E-I-O-U.
Okay.
So here's my question. You've played your Beastmen in Age of Sigmar. How do you feel the experiences of them now compared to when you were playing them in 8th? And what have you found that you really liked? Just talk in general terms.
It's very enjoyable because I can use anything, which everybody has said. You touched on the Beastmen change of rules, maybe gone full spectrum from worst to best, whatever you want to call it, approximations. But it's also true of the units, almost without saying Razordons now seem to tip Salamanders, in Lizardmen. And likewise, the Gore sadly don't seem to have quite the punch they did. If you put everything together with the Gore, and you end up getting Anarchy and Mayhem, the old Primal Fury, and your Shamans within 8 inches, and they've got over 20, and you roll a 6, they still only come up to a watered-down Besticore. So sadly, luckily I've got no more than 140 of them, so that was money well spent. But the Minotaurs are an absolute winner, and I mean, if there are people there who are interested in truly what figures do better, you can't look further than the Minotaur build with their formation buff. It's a good friend who's beaten me very well in other different armies and games has certainly tabled him to a man within 2 turns, and he's an outstanding knowledge on all games and all army, and he'll reflect that. So, you know, I got a lot of Minotaurs. I always persevered with them in the previous game. So they are superb. And I seem to be coming down on the great axes for them rather than the two axes, and you just can't go wrong. But the getting use out of things like the Cygor is a thrill, getting Cyril out, and things like this has made what was a very overly complex rule about having to beat the other wizard's leadership if you're within a certain distance, but he was going to get the reroll on the BSP, and all this nonsense. Now it's a simple reroll hits on a wizard. Simple as, and that's both for throwing the rock and for attacks, and it suddenly means that a model that is quite expensive can be used quite often. I'm not looking to beat anyone particularly, but I can use it, and it doesn't come off the board at the end of turn 1. So the Cygor's been a lot of fun. Tragically, you'll notice that with everyone having Stormcast and the Gore-Tide, you don't get to put that particular rule into place because there ain't much wizards out there. They give with one, and they take away with another. The Jabber Slides are fun if you run a brace, as I do, because rolling to get a 6 for anything within 6 inch of them to simply do nothing that turn. When you pop 2 over the top and you get amongst their main units and their heroes, etc., it's a 1 in 3 on each different hero and unit, which is quite incredulous. So their Spurting Blood now has become D3 mortal wounds on a 4-up. I hope you're enjoying these stats because they're coming thick and fast. And what's different is before with their Spurting Blood, you'd be like, okay, you've hit me and hopefully I can get you on a strength 5. But I'll be dead soon because I got 5 wounds or whatever. But now with, I think they've got 12 wounds, you're begging people to wound you, to get those D3 mortal wounds back on them. And there's moments in games when I'm trying to insist that the opponent has got cocked dice and he should re-roll against me, no matter what. And he won't. And I'm like, no, really, it's only fair you re-roll those 3 or 4 dice. I felt they were cocked. So that's potent, and he can afford to take a lot of abuse, then dish it out, and that virtually stops people wanting to attack the Jabber Slide. But they've got to do something about it, because if they pop over the top and start affecting their wizards, etc., it's quite crippling, and that's all the seriousness I can probably muster for the moment.
No, and that's fine. That was good.
You wanted some facts, like
you dropped some knowledge on us. I'm sure you're tired now. I'll give you a moment to rest.
I feel exhausted.
Tom, what about you? Obviously we've been going through all the war scrolls for the Mordheim project. So, what's your general impression of the Beastmen? Having, I don't think, ever played them, but
no. I have been somewhat underwhelmed. You know, like as you said, I've been going through them for the Mordheim stuff, and like there's just from like the raw tools that other armies have, they don't have them. Mounts aren't an issue with them. A lot of like spells, they have some magic, obviously, but I just their unit selection is fairly limited. It's a fairly tight army, like the Ogre Kingdoms. They're just a lot of stuff. It seems like has been converted as to like the play as from the substitute war scrolls in the back, and so it seems like they've gotten rid of quite a bit of stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I just I feel like GW called it in. I'll say that.
All right.
Sorry, you would seem to be breaking up a bit, Tom. All I heard was wow, wow, wow. I don't know my Beastmen. Is that what was coming? It was unclear. But how
again?
Just this army.
Chaos Warhounds. Those are in your army, right? Chaos Warhounds. That's the thing.
Allegedly. No, I mean the thing is, it's like I get it. It's like comparing sheep to worms. And I don't mean that harshly, but if you've been kicked in the balls incessantly, then merely getting a Chinese burn is nothing. We've had a step in the right direction. And I don't know how long we've got to talk, Vince, but I would love to go through a few combos, if I may.
Absolutely. Let's do this. Let's just break right into some best of the best. So hit us, Reef. Hit us with some of your best combos that you like. Go for it.
Well, one of the interesting things you'll find now is that we were always an army that if we had nothing else, we had reroll to hit with the Primal Fury. And I've been led to believe 1 in every 36 times we would have Primal Frenzy. now the emphasis is very much on the +1 to wound. You know, if you're taking a certain amount of troops and what have you. And you think, oh, well, what's happened? And God, I'm hitting on a 4, so half of these can't go through. So it feels different to play them. But if you can take people like Gorthor, the champion, on the hero on the chariot, he's a +1 to hit for everything within 16 inch of him. Brayherd, anyway. So that's a benefit. The Wargore again helps combat. He'll give a +1 to wound for everything within 16 inch, as long as he doesn't move and he sort of plants down his staff. So using those two as a fighting combo is helpful. And I'm sure a lot of people will say, well, look, we take the Beast Lord rather than Gorthor. But Gorthor's cracking out 8 wounds rather than 5 wounds. I'm really quite ashamed of myself for taking this so seriously. But those two together seem to be able, as long as you've got a big Brayherd, which is the Bestigor and the Gore, then they seem to be able to do something for you. The Bestigor are wonderful with two attacks. The little Ungor Raiders, I seem to be the only person who had them in quantity. They can run and shoot, okay? But they can also move after deployment phase, setup phase. They can have a free movement. So they can't be affected by things like the Griffhound. So their move and shoot is tremendous. The other Brayherd can run and charge. So if I talk you through just these are your core troops, Tom, for the uninitiated, these classic, what we call core troops. So they're potentially moving 6 inch. They get a +3 inch for going within 8 inch of the Bray. Okay? Then they can run, and then they can charge. They get a +1 on their movement anyway. And then when they pile in 4 inch rather than 3 inch. And so when you extrapolate this, after the first turn, often my Beastmen will be 16 foot behind my opponent.
I did some quick math. They've actually ran into the next tournament.
Yes. Right. Yeah, it could be logistically it's difficult because I'm playing in the one hall and my Beastmen are in another hall. With the Centaur, they too are tremendous with their distance and being able to run and charge and re-roll the charge. So with regards to, not only have we been granted quite good saves, 5-ups, yeah, we're there in turn 1. We're there where we want to be. So until we do scenarios, it's a question of, well, who cares if you're there? You're simply maybe dying there rather than here. But when scenarios start taking place, or when we start to learn the game and focus on, right, I need to kill that particular guy with the totem to affect his army, then thrusting my units out into those various areas quickly is important. And I found, I can't believe well, no, this is very much like 8th. The game is over for me by the end of turn 2. Now, in 8th edition, the game was over by the end of turn 2, but with very different consequences.
Usually with a herd of gore like running off the back of the board and chain pulling some other people off with them and a series of unfortunate failed panic checks, sure.
Yeah. The number of times people would come past and say, "Oh, are they ambushes?" And I'd be like, "No."
Only if what they're ambushing is on the table behind me.
Listen, 80% cannot be ambushes. All right? But, yeah, so there's a sort of elite movement with those classic Brayherd troops. I'll say this, though, that this notion, they seem to have thrown a bone to people with 8th armies. They've said to you, listen, we know you've got a lot more troops, so with that in mind, have a buff if you take 20 of them. And if you've got 30, have another buff. Particularly things like Ungor Raiders, they're on a 4-up to hit with their bows and a 4-up to wound. Ba-ching! So that's better than a skink. And they're re-rolling the 1s if you take them in a 20, and they're re-rolling 1s and 2s if you take them in a 30. So what you do is you think, well, I don't really want to go from 30 to 29 the first time I'm shot at, so I'll take, say, 35, just to make sure that as I whittle down, I've still got 30. And they're an uber force. The problem is, thank you very much for that rule, but I have no pleasure in moving 35 individual skirmishing Ungor Raiders. And visually on the eye, those little square bases, it is unpleasant. And not only that, I'm getting breakages on my models. And very quickly, once you've played 6 or 7 games with them, as good as they are, you're kind of like, just take 4 Minotaurs. And they're just easier, and they're bigger models. And I don't enjoy playing with those quantities. But boy, you know, if you had a big 8th army of the Beastmen, then now it's competitive. But one of the fun things about Age of Sigmar is that you should be able to get the games done pretty quickly. So because you're often meeting and playing 3 or 4 games in a day, who cares if you get whooped? Try another build, the next one, you may whoop him. And that happened. Me and Andy played some great games. We'd table him. He'd immediately say, right, I'm going to put something better on. He'd table me. Then we'd try something new, have a tight game. And so you don't have to panic about the 2 days you spent tricking out that particular Beast Lord or Ramhorn Helm Doom Bull. Now you just lobbed him on the table. So if you killed him, so what? I'll put him back in 2 hours and we'll run it again. Whereas before you were endlessly sort of rubbing your hands together like an alchemist, hoping that this particular combination that you put behind your heroes is going to come into play. Whereas now it's all good.
Yeah. No, it's funny you mentioned that because I myself am in the same place. Like I haven't ran my Skaven much because I know that most of the units that I want to put on the table, I need to put on the table in numbers of 30 and higher than that, 30, 40 plus models. And I'm like, I don't want to move 30, 40 individual storm vermin like this. Like I'm not going to do it. I'm too lazy. So I've tended toward playing like my more elite armies. I've been playing like my demons and stuff like that where I'm like, here you go, fiends. 4 fiends, there we go. Or like my, if I'm playing Tomb Kings, I get out the Necronites. I'm like, there you go, 4 Snake Surfers done. There, I feel happy about that. Scooped.
You say that, and there's a number of factors that affect the ability to have an equal force on either side in Age of Sigmar. But I don't find it hard after a couple of games to work out what's stronger than what and what you need to take off. And it's all roughly, you're going to play again in 2 hours, so don't sweat it. Lost my train of thought now. I don't find that hard, but what I'm finding is social graces are affecting what's going on the table. And like you were saying, other factors such as, can I be bothered? Do I want to get them all out? Do I want to move them? I've got factors come into play. If someone's travelled a long way to play at my house, and I feel, if I'm honest, you've got too much there, I probably would still let him have it because he's come a long way, and I don't want to be too harsh. And other factors, like if I do cream someone in the first game, naturally they're going to put something tougher on in the next game, and I naturally will put something weaker on. And I know that we've overcompensated, but I don't have the sort of social, believe it or not, I'm quite a humble guy, Tom. I don't often like confrontation. I don't have the sort to say, well, I know you need to do better now, but you've still got too much, and I'm still putting on some Minotaurs. And I'm finding there's a number, if they're the ones making the pizza, and I'm concerned I'm not going to get enough slices, that'll come into play. And it wasn't as simple as, can you agree on a allegedly points tally? You don't run things for all sorts of reasons. If I run my Brave Shaman and my Wargore, I've got to remember their command abilities and hero abilities, and how that's going to interact with the terrain ability, and how it might interact with the time of war buffs, and before you know it, and the quantity buffs on units, and then it's quite complicated for me, and I'll often take troops off just because it's easier for my mind to follow. I did see that coming. That was one of the few things that didn't shock me. But I don't know about you, whether you find it difficult to work out equal sides.
Not really. It's actually it's funny too because there's one of those things that's so much discussed, right? I mean, the amount of just ink by the barrel, as it were, has been spilled discussing this on the internet and in articles and such. And it's funny to me because from the first game I ever played, there was no issue. Our first game came down was like tight game that came down to like the last 2 units struggling against each other. Like with, just and one roll ended up pushing it over the head. And that's been most games since then, whether they're scenario-based or let's just have a punch-up in the middle. I don't find it hard to balance. I made a video sometime back about 6 things to do for a fun first game of Age of Sigmar, and I talked about this.
I saw it was entitled 6 Things to Do for Fun. I immediately put it on my ad to watch later. I didn't know what it was about, but I felt it was one to see when the missus wasn't around. But,
well, I feel if that's how you're saving it, you may be let down. But I haven't found it hard to balance at all. It's been quite easy.
I encourage gamers. I've got some gamers friends coming down tomorrow, and they're traveling a long way. And I sort of urge them now, try and take just 4 units plus a hero. because we'll wrap that up and we'll quickly play with another 4 units and a hero. And what you're going to find is the game is quick and responsive and fun, and no matter what, everyone has in their mind their formation buff, and they don't want to give that up for love nor money. And you just can't get people to take less troops. They still have the 8th mindset. Well, I'm going to want a couple of good fighting troops. I want a couple of light chaff, and no matter what, I'm going to want a BSB. Well, it ain't quite what it was, so don't worry about that. And I'm going to want a wizard, and I want this other wizard because they can only do 1 spell each. And if they would just bring it back down, because the other thing they're going to get out of the game is people will often mock if I say, honestly, most games are done by the middle of turn 3. They are done. But in that, we will have had 10 combats. Now, in 8th edition, you'd have no more than 3 combats, and you'd have the main blocks meeting in the middle, and on the side you'd have fast cav and skirmishers sort of fencing off. If you come close, I'll charge you, so I won't come too close. That kind of dance back and forward. But ultimately, it came down to pushing forward in the middle. There's a lot of fleeing, there's a lot of things going in the way. I don't class that as combat. And you might go a whole game of 8 and have 4 meaty combats, whereas in AOS, you're getting about 10 combats in 2 turns, and I'm finding them all over the board. But I mean, that might be because the Beastmen can move so much. I haven't found that everything just clumps in the middle.
No, and it's been the same experience for me, especially when there's any kind of scenario objective going on, right, where it's asking you to move in some way. There's something on the table you care about. I very much, and that's normally how we've been running our games, and that has meant people are all over, getting in different fights, retreating around, trying to move in different units, that kind of thing. So I absolutely, I think that's been my experience as well.
And the other thing, sorry Tom, I felt you were going on a little, but go one more time.
No, I was just going to say that. I found that if you're playing the terrain rules by what the book says, which is like, a handful of pieces of terrain per 2-foot section, I'm finding that I'm using terrain a lot more, and that actually, like, the positioning of the terrain is actually determining where I'm moving troops and pulling back. Like, I faced down an all-Saurus horde, like a horde of sources. It was a ridiculous number of sources, almost no range, and I was playing a white lion high elf army, which I also had only a little bit of range, but it was more than he had, and I ended up pulling back, rather than going to the middle of the board, I ended up pulling back into a series of terrain pieces and drew him in, and it was a very different experience than what everybody said of all the combats are having to go like head-to-head in the middle, and so I'm finding that terrain pieces are determining my fights as much, if not more, than they ever were in 8th edition.
It's a really good point, and I remember as soon as they put the Baleful Realms, or doorways as I call them, on the board, I found that I put a unit just within 6 of 1, and the opponent's immediately thinking, so is he going to go through there, or is he just fainting? So then he changes his deployment for it. It felt a bit like a Euro game, in that we were sort of out-plotting each other, or drafts, and it didn't feel so much like a war game. But it did break up that boring mass in the middle with a little bit of skirmish on the outside. Because the other reason why people are getting these clumps in the middle is, of course, the main starter set is combat-only troops to a large degree, apart from a 3-fingered moron and some hammers going here and there. And with the lack of wizards as well, what else would happen? And there's not many units. But yeah, and I think people are afraid to put some bat reps out there, and I understand why. Where you'd have 6 or 7 different units of lizards against 6 or 7 different Skaven units, because it's quite a lot to consider, but you would then see a lot of to-in and fro-in, I think, Of course, there's probably funeral pyres the nation over of skinks, people giving up the hobby. It's like a John Lennon burning because they're so furious that the one build they had was taken from them.
Just piles of skinks being thrown onto eBay and out car windows as people are driving down the highway, given away on the street randomly to children as you pass by. Sure.
In fact, I looked in the 2016 suggested Collins Dictionary, where the new term of "you've just been skinked" has been coined. It's actually quite negative, What can you do? Fuck them. You shouldn't have had 90 of them with a slang. Tough. Have a better approach to your hobby, you fools. I mean, it does seem they've literally taken troops that, by chance, who would have thought it, didn't really sell well, perhaps weren't visually as pleasing, and they've given them some lovely things in Age of Sigmar. And the go-to troops, which clearly wouldn't have sold them any more models in Age of Sigmar, they seem to have toned down a little bit. So if you were quite a fluffy gamer / retarded gamer like myself, you're already good to go. There's sort of 16 Jabba slides behind me, and I'm like, let's do it! But for the intelligent tactical gamer, it was quite a nerf. And you're looking at, even though 8th edition built the number of troops you had, you're probably still looking at buying that many troops just to sort of correct your army. If I'm honest, there's no logical reason to take the Gore over the Bestigor, or even the Ungor Raiders. And I've got hundreds of them. But let the chips fall where they may. That's what I say. Let them eat cake.
Well, no, I certainly agree. And I found like often in the past when this happened, what was really good, it became really bad. Like I swung it way too hard edition to edition. Whereas now, I think in most cases, my experience has been what was really good is still pretty good. It's just not insane, right? Yeah. And what was bad is now pretty good and sometimes great. Certainly that was my experience with my Tomb Kings, which I have played a lot, and I've loved every time I've put them on the table. I had a major investment in Ushabti. I bet hard on Ushabti because I love these models. I thought they were beautiful. They were god-awful in 8th edition, but that's been paying off.
We're losing our subscribers by drone. They're going in their numbers now. They heard Ushabti. They thought it was a kind of Arabic swear word. We've lost them all.
Understandable. It basically was an Arabic swear word in 8th edition. I think that's exactly correct. But those things they're fantastic now, and I've loved them every time. And I had maybe 3 of them battling a steam tank that went on for like quite a while, and I was like, this is not a thing that could have ever happened previously.
I know, and you find yourself looking at the situation, just thinking, in a minute, some sort of upside-down clown is going to come in with a jelly in the shape of a greyhound, and you go, oh, I'm dreaming. Shit! For a moment, the Minotaurs were doing well. But why wouldn't, a lovely model like that, but I always had a theory that the better the model, they really didn't need to put many rules with it, because generally we'd buy it. And there were some atrocious models that came out that often had stronger rules. And, the Ushabti should have good rules. They look good, and it's that whole Anubis thing, isn't it? I think they need something. If you're going to believe that this is like a cool fantasy world to get into, then you need it, Sorry, even I got bored with what I was saying there.
No, you're fine. All right, let's return back to the Beastmen now. We'll save TK for another time. So, let me do this. You've read through the Beastmen scrolls, so let me turn to this one for you, Reef. Here's my next question for you. All the special characters you mentioned, Gorthor, the Beast Lord on Chariot. What special character is your favorite out of the new scrolls that you've read for any reason? I mean, just because you like what he does now or whatever. Which one have you liked his journey into Age of Sigmar?
Just as a side note, before we go to it, it's our particular wanker rule that we've been attributed for the make a funny noise, sit down, do a dance. That's attributed to the Wargore, and I'm supposed to make a kind of snuffling, grunting sound. I'm not sure if this show's going out at sort of school time. I don't know if. I imagine only elderly people would watch this show, and they wouldn't be able to hear my bad language. I don't know if it's a problem for you. Is it?
You're fine.
Okay. Well, so I gave it, real gusto. I felt that the rule stated I should do a kind of snuffling, grunting sound, and I gave it. Sadly, the Wargore wouldn't die, and 3 or 4 turns later, it was the one game where it wouldn't end, and I was begging my opponent to slay this son of a bitch, and I was having to, every time I wanted, like, the buff, I had to make this sound, and it was sort of decreasing in quantity and loudness, until in the end it was kind of, it was like an unfortunate sheep's groan. And but that was interesting. But I'll give you this before I come on to the serious answer, which is, were I to be in a hall and I had a bad day or something, or whatever, or I felt like I was having a bad time, and my opponent sort of made me do that, and I didn't want to do it as loud as he felt I should to get the buff, I knew at the time I was doing it, that would cause me an issue. It was funny the first time. The second turn I did it, it was not funny, and the third time I was looking to punch my opponent. But on to your question, if I can answer it really honestly, I look at the 3 wizards. I love the fact that they've got a spell that associates with them you know if I'm taking Malagor, I've got Vile type. That's what he does. He's a flying Vile type boy, and it's nice. And there's no suitcase of tricks where I turn up and go, right, let's have a look which one of the 50 spells I could choose or abilities, and I'm going to throw it on you. Got no idea of planning for it. He's kind of like a chess piece. He's like a bishop. You know that Malagor will do this. That's a bishop going diagonally. And then if I take Morgor, he will be like a castle, and he will go like this. And I love that element to the different wizards, and it means that very quickly you can learn what another army does and plan around it. Mm-hmm. The Bray Shaman is only a one-spell character, and even though he's got Savage Dominion, the downside to that is it's a 9, so unless you're near territory, which will give you the +1, it means it's going to come up hopefully once a game. The upside is you're literally now choosing a monster. Not something from your rares or something from the Beastmen monsters, but a monster. So if you're like me, and I've got like lots of stegs, dare I say it, a Hydra or what have you, you literally can bring on anything to suit the situation. So yeah. I had a situation where it was the last turn, end of the game, and I had Savage Dominion. So for me, it was pertinent that I put a Hydra on, so that if I failed my charge, the probability says I'll fail my charge, he would have been worthless, but he can still get the breath attack in. So in that situation, it's him. And now I'm starting to feel, well, perhaps I'll have a box full of monsters, and I can choose and get some experience on using them for each situation. So whilst that's fun, he's still only a one-spell wizard. Now you can help.
Let me interrupt you real quick, Reef. I just want to jump in there. You mentioned the summon ability, being able to summon a monster. I listened to the Wargaming for Fun podcast, some friends of yours, I believe, over there in the UK. I think they mentioned actually coming up and having a game with you.
I'm not afraid to say that, yes.
Yes. And I had not thought of the fact that the spell is restricted to just saying something with the monster keyword. And they pointed out, so can the spell summon Nagash? Like, because he has the monster keyword, right? And I was like...
Well, in fairness, with those guys, the games we're having is on another level. And when I say another level, I don't mean another level, I mean another level. We're chatting about all sorts. And it related to the fact that me and Ada just done a big swap. Tom, can you deal with that external noise that's going on in your periphery? I'm sensing there's a fourth member who wants to appear, and I'm trying to, you know, I don't often get a chance to appear on these shows.
I'll see what I can do about it.
No, Vit, we're all going to wait until Tom deals with whatever is so important that it must take place now throughout the show. And frankly, we're not moving on.
I suspect it's probably, there we go, dealt with. I suspect it's probably his children who he's responsible for right now. It's because we moved this to the middle of the day.
Okay, I'll try and swear quietly. What was I saying, Vince? It was something profound.
Yeah. About the game with the Wargaming for Fun boys and the monster summoning.
So we did a swap. He needed a number of free troops for a little wargaming school he's getting going. Incidentally, I don't know if people are into this, but if you contact Aid for Wargaming for Fun, it's quite a noble initiative. He's trying to get a little bit of a wargaming evening club going, and he's like, you got any free shit? So I gave him a load of stuff, and I gave him a lovely manticore on a rock and what have you. And so he gave me something I always wanted, which was the Glotkin. And so what happened was we were literally like, oh, you know that thing you've just given me? Can I put that on? Because that's a monster. So yeah. It rose like that rather than what's the cheesiest piece of shit I can put on at this game-winning moment. And there are a number of issues we never really came down on the one side with, like an agreement on. I think we generally thought just have the monster, don't have a hero monster, don't have a wizard monster, you know? Because you're already having a lovely thing having a monster. Why have more? And I know often people with their own armies just try and max it out. There's no reason to. That's a lovely thing to have a free monster on a 9. Just settle down. You're not playing for money. Or at least I'd be broke now if I was. So that we came down on the thought that just have the monster. Now with the other armies where they're sort of summoning Tensaurus and what have you, I very definitely see how you could have to and froing in a game, a nice flow. And then in the last 2 seconds, you just go, and there's so-and-so Saurus, and there's so-and-so Skeleton. And yeah, certainly, in what a wonderful game, my Hydra did come on and win the day, ironically, in the last seconds. Even though he made it out that I absolutely steamrolled him, it was a good game.
Nice.
But that's
so
the one.
Here's my question: how do you like Slug Tongue in his new incarnation? An old perennial favorite from the previous book.
I'm confused. What do you mean? Is that a quick question?
Never heard of him, huh?
Are you testing me?
I am.
That's underhanded. But I'll ignore your question and go on to my second favorite wizard.
I like it.
That was quite underhanded. No, I mean, yeah, I used to play them in the old game, if that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Occasionally. But I mean, a bit of a one-trick wonder at the start of the game, isn't it? People go, oh, you've got to get Slug Tongue. Okay, what do you do for the rest of the game? So, I mean, now the Cygor can offer +2 unbinding with that, what I call a level 1 wizard of the Brave Shaman. So you can sort of buff your capabilities against spells in that fashion. But as we move on to the other sort of level 2 guys, then I don't know. I think the Morgor is probably a nice juicy option if people really want to know what my favourite of the 3 is. You get to flick an Ungor off and have a spawn. That's the first thing for fun. That's going to happen 3 times in the game on a 4-up, you know. He has a kind of snipey death style spell, so they keep the sort of ethos of that particular lore going. Kind of a bravery test. Notice I didn't say leadership test. With 2 dice over their bravery, and depending on what army you've got against you, that's a quick way of getting mortal wounds on characters, just to get them down a bit. And then when your Jabbersies are going over the top, they're sort of doing the job. I think he's good. I think one of the big benefits of having the Brave Shaman is that within 8 inch of him, all your Brayherd are moving an extra 3 inch on their already existing amazing movement. But what you quickly find out is all your army shot off amazingly, and your little wizards all at the back. It's very difficult to keep benefiting from that because you can't keep up. Whereas, you know, I think it's Malagor, the flyer, has got the 12 inch movement.
Right.
And he wouldn't benefit from that particular thing, but at least he stays up with the army. There's something merit in all of them. Every game I change my army. If I've done well, I change it. If I've done poorly, I change it. So it matters not to me which the Uzi units are. I'm more of a purist.
I think what's really interesting to me about the army and how it plays and how it seems to play to me, I've only seen, like I said, I have a friend who started using some units and he hasn't played like a true Beastman army because he hasn't collected enough of it or anything. But it seems to me in reading the army that it really sort of, what they did nicely is put a lot of like cross things where everybody wants to be near other things. Heroes want to be near things, they want to be near the heroes. And then everything moves really quick. There's a lot of like running and shooting, running and charging. And so they really do, what that means in practice is that they feel like a herd as they run across the table, right? It's just like, you can just picture them coming out of the forest at a dead sprint and hitting the enemy. And I think it's nice that the rules sort of meet the expected aesthetic.
That's a good point. Whereas if you compare that to the previous army book, then the Bestial Surge was more of a sprint in slow motion. It's kind of the recap of the race, the D6 inch that you would ponder forward. And were you lucky enough to make a charge with it, you'd have to stop an inch away anyway. So you can't believe how we've accelerated.
So you used to have like a Chariots of Fire kind of thing, right? Just sort of a...
Yeah, although in the Chariots of Fire, almost all of them are going forward, whereas in this, it would be more than 2, 3, you know. But yeah, it is frightening how far they can move. I'll say this, though. A nice little key to the game is you can boast this out. And when it goes off, people are quite startled by it. But of course, if you fail your charges, I mean, you'll get to re-roll with the Centaur, they're getting in. But if you fail your charges, they just stop still. So you can have all these buffs if you like, but ultimately, you might just stand still. So you have to be mindful of that. And one of the interesting things is because you're like, well, I can run and charge. So I just go forward 12, and then I immediately, well, no, one might go forward 7, and one might go forward 12. And you get that kind of striation across, and it looks good, and you don't have absolute control or autonomy over the army. It could be argued, I never did. But certainly now with that rule, you don't. And it's enjoyable. In the same way in which you might run a goblin army, and it's fun, or watching your army in 8th, some things might happen for you positively, some things might be negative, and just watching him play with his goblins on his turn is fun. Likewise, I don't have absolute godlike autonomy over my troops, and it is quite interesting watching how some have shot off, and damn, now they're no longer within 16 inch of the war goal, and he has to stand still to get his benefit to the +1 wound, so, oh damn, do I move him in the second turn, so I'll certainly be ready for turns 3 and 4, or do I stay still and hope that they don't go further ahead of him? Usually I've wrapped it up by 2, but it's a hypothetical.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Tom, I haven't had you talking for a little while, so I'm going to turn to you. As I said, we've been doing a lot of work on the War Scrolls for Mordheim. What's your favorite monster that you've seen so far out of it? Because obviously, when we built these Mordheim, you gave a little spoiler away last week that monsters might be showing up in the City of the Damned for our little rules pack. So we've looked at the monsters. What's your favorite one from the Gorgon, Cygor, Jabberslythe, Giant sort of monster pack?
Jabberslythe by far, because in a small scale engagement, that thing is just deadly. If it wades into combat with how it's obviously you're not gonna. Here's another little spoiler. There's not going to be overlapping Jabberslythes in Mordheim, but even with having one on the table, one of the issues is just going to be it's going to disrupt everything around it. It's punchy. It has a lot of wounds. And anybody that starts putting damage on it is going to be taking a D3 mortal wounds back, 50% of the time, and that's going to be painful for any of your kind of low level like troop henchmen. That's going to be problematic for them.
I've got to say, I love the Jabber too, and I don't know, Reef, if you saw it, but Doom and Darkness, he recently ran in a tournament, and he used I think it was actually 8th edition tournament. But he actually, in 8th edition, ran a double Jabberslythe list. He was using a Chaos Legion's army or whatever, but he did have double Jabberslythe in it. So there you go. And they did some great work for him. There were some impressive moments, even in the old world there.
Finally, I thought I'd never get a word in with Tom going on so much. That's good. I like that. The double jab, I used to run it a lot. I'm pleased with him. It can be a bit disappointing if you wind up against demons or VC, because literally your capabilities in 8th you're just a toughness 5 sleeveless monster. But I'm sure he will have found over the course of the weekend, only truly playing something 5 or 6 times in a weekend in intense frequency, do you come away thinking, right, now I have a feel of what it's doing, because you can read the book as much as you want. So I hope he had a lot of fun with it. I used to run the Giant in 8 for a lot of tournaments. If nothing else, just to cement the rules in my head, what am I hoping for? Going against small guys, big guys? Am I hoping to roll a this or a that? And I think it's great to take some of these weaker troops into tournaments, play a lot of games against different styles of armies, and yeah, sometimes you come up against a skink army and it's over before it started. But generally, I think it's good in your hobby, and you should be able to buy the most interesting models, paint them, and know that you're getting some use out of them, which he may not have. I hope he did. But certainly in Age of Sigmar, they're going to be on the table for quite some time, and you're going to feel like spending, yes, $42.50 on a Jabberslythe with huge, gaping, fine-cast holes is money well spent twice. You merely want it to be around when the cup of tea arrives,
I think that there has to be an alternate model out there if people aren't into I love the Finecast, or sorry, let me flip that around. I love the Jabberslythe, the model. I just hate that it's Finecast. That's always a killer.
Well, I know this is that a lot of people look at the Jabberslythe and think, well, what the hell is it? What is a Jabberslythe? What does it? Is it like a Jabberwocky? And what is that? And I like the notion that I couldn't define it as a classic ancient Greek mythical beast or anything. And I've noticed now in the new Age of Sigmar age and End Times age, they're creating these monsters, Magus Lords and what have you, and Mortarks and things that you can't really put your thumb on and think, oh, that's clearly the Cygor is Cyclops, and that's the Minotaur from the Labyrinth, and that. So yeah, when you say about the Jabberslythe, sometimes it's nice for them to think of something new and innovative, even if occasionally it looks like a collection of coat hangers, like some of the undead stuff is. But I think that it's good. I was so bored with the sort of Tolkien-style replicas, whether it be dwarves, elves, no thought whatsoever gone into that. Even now with the dwarves, it's nice that they'll try different styles of dwarf, change the shape of the dwarf, it's a little bit bigger. But I don't think they could or should rest on their laurels of using traditional Lord of the Rings style factions, or what would you call them? You know, what do you think? Were you bored to death with an elf that was particularly fleet of foot and intelligent, a dwarf that was stubborn and grumpy and Celtic, and a human that was moderate but poor moral guidance in certain areas? Were you bored with that whole thing?
Tom, you want to take this one? You have very strong opinions about this.
The fact that I like fantasy to be fantasy. Is that your statement?
I don't know.
What your argument is.
I'm a big fan of fantasy being fantasy. Will you hold on? Just continue. Sorry.
You're fine. Yeah, I mean, my answer is I like a mix. Because I think, Reef, you're right. Like, on one hand, we've got to have new stuff, different stuff, interesting things that push the imagination that you can't really put your finger on, because that's how new tropes get made, right? I mean, GW has thrown out like the Skaven or whatever that were fairly new, or Chaos itself, which is drawn from like Elric and sort of that stuff. But it wasn't, you know, yes, there's inspiration there. Some of it's not exactly that, but those things gained traction, became popular. But you got to throw a lot of spaghetti at the wall to make something stick, right?
I'm sorry.
Every, like,
are you quoting Aristotle there?
Absolutely, yes.
The wolf. What's that?
Yeah. That's a great
phrase in America. Bro, I threw spaghetti at the wolf.
That's well, yes, that's a thoroughly American idiom for you, I guess.
I need a pen.
Look, for every Skaven, there's a Femir. Okay, I mean that's what it's going to boil down to. You're going to have one work and one fail. But I think the classic archetypes, to some degree, have to be there as well, because there needs to also be those touch points that bring new people into the game. And a new person isn't necessarily going to want something weird and out there. Maybe they do, but the easiest on-road is when somebody can walk to the shelf or whatever and see, oh, elves, I watch Lord of the Rings, I know what that is, that's an orc, that's an elf, I like that thing, that looks like that thing. So they need to have some amount of that, like classic stuff. And so my hope on the go forward is that we see a sort of mix of some that speak aesthetically to a more classic paradigm, and some that's new and different and crazy and insane, and, you know, dwarves that are, you know, wreathed in flame and jumping around and riding giant fire salamanders, and then also some dwarves that look steel-clad and in armor and shoot cannons and run around and be gruff, boring, bearded, you know, grudge bearers.
I'm not sure where golden robots come in that particular analogy, but yeah, I suppose if the entire book is unusual new creations, book, even a novel, it's hard to concentrate and work out what the shape of the animal is, what their true characteristics are, and so having some background is good. If you, like me and everyone else, has read and seen so much of it, I particularly had a fascination. I'm not a great reader, as I'm sure you can imagine, and I struggle with it. And I was given Sword of Shannara by Terry Brooks when I was about 10, and I struggled to get past the first chapter 4 or 5 times. And then one day, when I was about 30, I finally got there and did it. And then I went on to read 3 in the trilogy, and I loved it because of those classic cliched style characters. Loved it. He then went on to do another trilogy, and another trilogy, and another trilogy, and just endless trilogies that now, guess what, come back in to become a kind of prequel. And over a series of 15 books, the thing I love the most has just become exhausting. And I realize now I'm reading it to complete the cycle and set, rather than reading it because I'm fascinated by it. That's all. But I mean, I'd agree with you, Tom, but then we'd both be wrong.
All right.
I mean, for me, I would say this, that I like some traditional fantasy in there. I have no problem with the Nurgle crazy slug monsters. I have no problem with crazy steampunky dwarves, and none of that is an issue to me. And I can even big golden robots, big C-3PO Space Marines, like I can deal with. But as Vince kind of said, like it can't all be that. And right now, their world building has been all of that. Their world building is this crazy alien landscape and multiple planes of just unrelatable world. And that's a problem, because if they follow that course with all of the races, then we're going to just be weirdo land. And it's not going to be relatable. And It's like there's just nothing that people are going to be able to do and like see and identify with, and that's going to be a problem for the long-term IP for them.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't follow. I will say this that I mean, most of I say most. I mean, all of what I say shouldn't be taken seriously. But I didn't really follow the 30 years of fluff because I felt it would be approximately what I'd said. I thought it was unrealistic for people to say, "Oh, they've given us no more than 30 years of this storyline, and then they've cut it short." And I thought, well, I think at some point they can start something afresh. But I think if you had and you were invested in it, it is good. I should add a wrinkle that the reason I'm teasing Tom mercilessly is because about a year ago when you started appearing, I did actually comment, didn't I, that I felt you were probably the most succinct, intelligent commenter on YouTube, didn't I? Because we'd had a sea of dross, I felt. I was one of them until your appearance, and I was a big fan. And so I tend to be particularly harsh on people I admire.
Well, I'm sorry to let you down.
That's why I'm particularly polite to Vince.
Exactly, yes. I have zero respect, and I get that. I wouldn't respect me either. Very few do. That you have taken the appropriate response.
No, I tell you this much. At the time at which Tom came on the scene, people were just plying their own tiresome tirade endlessly. Myself included, tuning out the same old thing, and it was unusual for someone younger to immediately be more sort of engaging and I don't know, just engaging on the topic. That's all you're getting, Tom, and I'll be going back to calling you a young, disrespectful, cap-wearing idiot in a moment.
Well, why, thank you.
There we go. All right, let's turn to some comments and questions. So, Reef, you there was some questions left for you, being that people knew you were going to be the guest. So here we go. Kieran asks the question: what was the name of your first Beastman hero? Did you name your first Beastman hero? What was the first one you named? What was their story, and where are they now?
Does he mean like the models within the actual army?
Sure. Take it how you will.
I've not really had an affinity with the. It's interesting. I seem to put a lot of effort into building large armies, and then my heroes I do kind of at the end with a lack of love, attention. The way I tricked them out was poor. I can't honestly say. I hear people talk of things like the 192 BSB, things like this. I try not to do that. I try not to call it the Reefy build or anything like that. But if I'm honest with him, no. I mean, yeah, I'd have things like the Ramhorn, Helm, Doombull, and stuff. But I really wasn't an aficionado of a particular hero. Nothing really drew me in. The original tale of the Minotaur in the Labyrinth sucked me into the genre. But I'm sorry, I haven't really got anything to say with regards. I have very little interest in the game, to Kieran, I would say. I mean, I enjoy meeting friends through the game. I like rolling dice, but I'd play Yahtzee, really, against my friends. But I think it's probably wasted. I think that's probably a question for someone like Once Bitten, in fairness. You know.
Well, here's what I'll say. You were the first person I saw, Reef, that ran the Flying Doombull, which really grew a lot in popularity. You, as far as I know, you were the originator of the Flying Doombull, well, so you can claim that at least.
I'll tell you a story about my Doombull. I don't know. Well, watch the kids now, Tom. I'm going to use some naughty language, but my Doombull. I'm talking lower. What an old fart I am. My Doombull had "Me Bring Doom" on the front, and on the back was written "Motherfucker." And I took it to Games Warhammer World. And he was on a flying carpet, so I had the clear acrylic stand with the sort of Arabian carpet on and all the rest of it. And the guy who manages the Warhammer World shop, he's been it for a long time, right? Particularly good salesman, but Irish. So he came over to our table, and he went, whoa, and he homed in. We were playing Giant Hammer. He homed in right on my army, on my table. Hey, oh, look at that. That's really quite something. I did some proxies to it, and he's got a big ball hanging off it and all the rest of it. And then and as he turned it round and saw it, he just put it back and went, and then went. He wasn't as impressed as I was. But then I've realised afterwards that, with my daughter coming around occasionally, it's probably not a good idea. But you can get thrown out of there for fielding the wrong model. So it was a dicey moment. But yeah, he that's my The Flying Doom Bull I enjoyed. You'd give him the Charm Shield, maybe the 4-up ward. You'd lose all the other things you would know the Doom Bull for to get it. It was a poor way to spend your points. But what would happen is you'd have the 2 jabbers on the... I'm taking myself so seriously, it's ridiculous. I absolutely shit at the game. You'd have 2 jabber slides on each side of the table. You'd have the Flying Doom Bull. You'd have harpies. You'd have a load of ambushes. And all of a sudden it'd be like turn 1, and you'd be like, ooh, I'm on you. And you would... Ultimately, it would just mean you'd be dying over there rather than over here. But it was great for that 1 minute, you know. It's kind of like...
really scary, sure.
When the dwarves turn up with the rangers, I think it is, isn't it? And they got them all as ambush and... not ambush, what is it? Scout and all the tricks. People don't expect it, and it's fun. I used to enjoy playing with that. And a Flying Doom Bull can get you out of a lot of trouble if you're a crap player. So you can sort of go, oh God, I'm too close to the... Right, come back. Right, okay, move over there. That's wrong. I should have been with my BSB, and it used to get me out of trouble. So,
fair enough. All right, question number 2 from Hooves of Doom. So, yeah, exactly. He's right in your wheelhouse here. So he says, old school Beastmen used to combine men with other animals like dogs and birds. Would you like to see that aesthetic reintroduced? Or do you prefer only the goat-cow hybrids?
Well, I'm a big avian lover, as you know. I've had birds and aviaries since I was like 12. I've always bred birds. And I was drawn to, is it Gods of Egyptus, Age of Egyptus, because of their bird-like models in that. They're all kind of undead Tomb Kings in the game, but they have some ranges that are quite bird-like, pelican-like. And yeah, I'd love to have a bird army. I'd be out. Everything would be bought, pre-ordered. You know that numpty click that GW offer? You could have this whole bundle, the Mammoth bundle, for £630. And you're like,
it saves you the clicks, yeah.
What kind of a deal am I getting there? If I get them all, I'm getting no money off. I would click those if it was a bird army. And I would relish and love that, so thanks. I will say this, that Hoover Doom has one of the finest hairstyles of any wargaming YouTuber out there. And on a serious note, you're not going to want this, Hooves, but I've never heard someone start up a channel with more sense than Hooves of Doom. He's done about 7 shows, 5 minutes each, and it's really good. I like it. I wouldn't go as far as say I'd sub to you yet, Hooves. You've got the 4-month test to get through. But really nice guy, great stuff, and I hope he's doing well.
All right, there we go.
Great hair.
And, well, that's high praise. I don't. That is not an accusation that's ever going to be leveled at me. I think that much is obvious. Blinding sheen, maybe, but definitely not great hair.
Well, I think what we've got over you is the slight bits of blonde and strawberry blonde. I won't say ginger. I think that just gives it a bit of edge. Yours is quite a harsh contrast, Vince. But on shows, you've done a hell of a thing over the last year or 2. I always said to you at the start you should take this more seriously, and tragically you took me at my word. But you've done a lot, and it really is good, mate. And you know, it's good. Next.
All right, fair enough. Well, with that, I think we've covered everything we said we were going to cover. And Reef, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Any final thoughts you want to add on the Beastmen or on your retirement?
Well, with regards to the show, I haven't enjoyed it, but the Beastmen, I'm having fun with the army. It's going to become a bind moving all those models, and I will actively not play the higher numbers with the buffs because I want to enjoy my game. I'll leave you with this little U-turn. Whilst I enjoy Age of Sigmar and I will continue to play it and I'm loving it, I don't think it will last. And I'm sorry to say that. But then I don't think it's in Games Workshop's interest for any gaming system to last. It's just constantly recycle, change, recycle, so we're constantly buying new stuff. But I hope I've served a purpose, and don't ever invite me again.
We understand. Don't worry. We understand this is the first and last time you've been coaxed out. I look at this much like I got a live interview with J.D. Salinger. I see it as about on the same level here of elusive recluse.
Yeah, well, whatever, turns your handle. But I know that you're in a particularly difficult situation with lack of appeal and subscriber base. And I ordinarily wouldn't turn up on a show that's as parochial as this. But the other people, I'd like to apologize for the other people who've asked me to be on their show, and I've said I don't really like appearing on other shows. I wouldn't do it. But if you saw the nature of Vince's particular appeal, it's seldom you'll see a grown man grovel in that manner. And I had to say yes, you know, that and the $200.
Well, it was that and the promises of sexual favors and such when I make my way over the UK. I mean, it was really a laundry list of things. So yes, it's you got to do what you got to do.
Good luck for you both. I do appreciate it, and Tommy, excellent, and Vince, superb. So all the best to you both.
Absolutely. Tom, any final thoughts before we sign off?
More time is coming.
There you go. As always, it will be very soon. But for me, I will simply say, as always, thank you all for watching. Certainly appreciate it. I will include a link to Reef's channel because the way I do that, remember, bad virus, don't subscribe. It's bad. But you should watch his videos about Phallus Underwhelm and his journey through the world of Age of Sigmar. I don't care if you subscribe or not. Watch a great end video. And really, Reef did an amazing amount of work for that in the classic Harryhausen style. So that is to be appreciated and given a like, if nothing else. But as for me, I will say, see you next Wednesday.